All right, welcome back. In this video, we're just going to do a little bit more to make the game more interesting, including putting a score button, a reset button, and we'll play around a little bit with the text-to-speech as well. So I'm going to go back to the designer. I left a little bit of room there at the bottom, not very much. I'm going to put in a layout here, horizontal arrangement. We're just going to put a few things in down here. Okay, one of them is probably just put a label. We'll actually need two labels there. So user interface, label. Now that's kind of off the screen, isn't it? This thing's in the way. Let's just give ourselves a little bit more room. Let's go to our canvas. It's a 400 pixels. Let's make that 375. See how that looks. Okay, that looks a bit better. Okay, now remember, because we used those blocks before, we don't actually have to go in here and change it. So that just goes to show you that power of having this, because I don't have to worry about it. My code is just going to adjust. Okay, now back to the designer here. We put the text for label. I think we need another label to put the score. So I'm going to put that right beside it. And then I'm going to put a button in. That would be for the restart game. I'll just put that in right beside. I think that's inside. And the other thing is the text to speech, which I think is under media, text to speech. I'm just going to throw that on there too. So let's just fix these up. I'm going to pause the video, but I'm just going to make the score. This one we're going to have to set. I'll set it to 0, and this will basically be a restart or new game button. Okay, I'll do that off screen here. So what I've done here is just set this label called score, set that at the moment, the score label, I renamed it just to make that one very clear. And then I've got my restart button, and I might even want to just rename that now that I think about it. So I'll just call that restart button. Okay. And then I've sort of centered it as well. And I changed the color and I gave it rounded corners. Okay, whatever you want to do. Not a big deal. Okay, so now we want to go into the blocks and actually get the score button to work. Now obviously this doesn't change, and so I just left it as label 1. We want to be affecting the score label. So in the blocks, well, when are you going to get a point? Well, you're going to get a point when it's touched. So we need to pull something into here. And so what we want to do is we want to set that score label. So we want to set score label dot text. There it is there. Okay, because we want to just affect the text. And what do we want to set it to? Well, first touch we want to set it to 1, then we want to set it to 2, then we want to set it to 3. So we can't hard code this again, right? We can't just put a number in there because that number will only be correct once. So the little trick is we have to take whatever value it is now and add 1 to it. Okay, so really what we need to do is a bit of math. We need to do this addition. Okay, so we know, like I was just saying, we know that we're just going to put 1 here. Okay, we know that we're going to add 1 to it. Okay, now the thing is we have to grab the score now. And so we can do that. We can just, instead of the set, we can just sort of have the get or whatever. So I'm just going to go to the label. Okay, and not set, but this one here. So the score label.text. And I should be able to just plug it in here. Okay. And so the idea is that, okay, it vibrates, then it sets our score label.text to whatever it was before plus 1. So if we started off at 0, okay, then it becomes 0 plus 1, so it becomes 1. Then the next time it's set to 1, so then now it's going to be 1 plus 1, so it's set to 2. And then that way it would just keep incrementing up and up. So the next thing we want, to sort of continue with this game here, is a win condition. So I'm just going to move these up. we're going to have to do a little bit of a check of the score. So just like we did before, you know, if they guessed it right or whatever, you win, when we did the guess the number game in Python. Very, very, very similar here. We're going to come over and grab the logic. Okay, no, sorry, not the logic, the control. And we have an if something, then do something. Okay, so if what? Well, if the score is what? Okay, so we're basically going to take this and put it in with an equal. So I'm going to go back to the logic now. Now, I know in Python, I talked about the equals sign. Unfortunately, or fortunately, in App Inventor, they just use a single equals to indicate equality. Okay, the left and the right side are the same. And it's simply because the way you define a variable, right, where we did the assignment operator with the equal sign is different here. We don't do that. So they've been able to just use the equal sign. It is what it is, but I prefer if it had a double equal sign there. But anyways, basically what we want to do is if our score labeled text, I'm just going to grab that and copy it and paste it because it's the same thing. So if our score label is equal to what? Let's just make it easy at the moment. Let's make it 5. Okay, whoops, 53, 5. And I'm just going to drag that in. Okay, so at this point, we have to have if the score is 5, we have to have some sort of reward. Well, that's why we brought the text-to-speech in, because we got to have something really cool, right? So what we can do here is we can just do a text-to-speech. You can see it's kind of neat. There's even like you can do different countries and stuff. I haven't really played around with this. You can change the pitch and so on. Kind of fun stuff here. So you could, I don't know if you could get it to translate or not. We can see later on. Anyways, I'm going to pull this call, the text to speak, okay, or text to speech one. That's the component. We're going to call it to speak, and then you can put in a message here. And you can see there's a text one in quotes. So just like we did in Python, text, a string was indicated by quotes. We're going to put something in here. And well, of course, if you win, you are awesome. Okay. That goes without saying, but it's going to say it. So that is sort of our win condition there. One last thing we'll do for the you win part is we'll also stop him from, or stop the character from moving around. And so to do that, you can go back to the clock. Where was the clock here? There we are. And there's something about being it enabled. Set clock timer to enabled. Okay, or set clock 1 timer enabled 2. And so what we can do is we can set that to false. So we can plop that in there. And so what will happen is that it will just stop moving. Because once that clock is turned off, then no longer will it randomly move. Okay. One last thing that we got to do is deal with the restart button. And this is going to be pretty easy. There's basically just 2 things we have to do. So when we click the restart button, what do we want? Any guesses? Think about it. I think I heard you say about resetting the score. You're right. So we need to reset that score. And so I'm just going to grab that block and copy it. And we're going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to set the score to, pull this off, set that off. And so we're not doing any comparisons here. We're just setting that number. So I'm setting it to 0. And we can just get rid of this one. Now the only other little issue is this guy here, because we set the clock to false. So it's no longer running. And so we want to make sure that the clock goes back on, or the timer. So I'm just going to copy this guy, paste it. So Control C, Control V, come into here. And what's nice, the false, we can just set that to true. We don't have to delete it and put it back in. All right. So this should work. So I would, save it and try it out. And so after you've tried it out, then it will be up to you to modify it. All right, and so we really want to sort of change this up. So here's some ideas, and I'll write them out as well so that you've got them. But obviously, you could change the type of game, okay, so that it is better. At the moment, we've just got a very simple little thing, but you could change it into anything. Catch the trump, whatever you want, okay. You know, as silly as that sounds, sometimes meme style games where the programming is something as very basic as this, and you know, it's just a matter of, you know, catch Trump's hair that's wandering around the screen. All, you know, respect to Mr. Donald Trump, that could be a game that goes viral just because of its hilarity, not because of its programming prowess at all, but just because of that. So, you know, change this up, make it something fun, okay, the graphics. Now, one thing you might want to do is also, I mean, there's a score here. You could have hits, maybe you have misses, okay, or hits versus moves, so you calculate some sort of percentage, and you know, after 10 hits or whatever, then it shows you your hit percentage as well. That might be something. You could add a second sprite, which is sort of a decoy sprite, that if you hit that, it ends the game, or you lose some points. That could be a possibility. Okay. You could have something where the player at the start of the game, that's a little bit more complex here, but chooses what they want, okay? So you could use, there's an image picker component, so you might want to even look into that. You could, we haven't done this here, after a certain number of hits, then the mole moves faster. So the timer, you go and you set the timer. So if, you know, the score is so many points, then the timer, you know, it's set to 1,000 at the moment. We set that to a lower number so that it moves faster. So we've increased the challenge of the game. So that could be it. You could even try, like I'm not even quite sure how to do this, but try to see if you could keep a high score. And then so when you come back to play the game, that high score is there. And so it's saved into the app, into a little bit of memory. And, you know, you've got a sort of a leaderboard. The old arcade games always had sort of leaderboards. Who was number one on that game? Put your 3 initials in, APF for me. And of course I would be at number 1 there playing Pac-Man. But I digress. Anyways, okay, try that out, okay? Hopefully it's working for you. And then I really want you to modify this one beyond what this game is, okay? There's lots of opportunities, and the best thing is for you to explore, right? That's really the way you're going to sort of, you know, understand the code and be able to make it your own. So good luck, and I look forward to playing some very inventive something mash games, all right? Good luck.